Hello, in this lecture we will record governmental transactions, journal entries for a city government. We will have the data on the left-hand side. This is data related to the general fund. We'll be concentrating on the general fund for these transactions. We'll be reporting and posting the journal entries here in the blue section. We will then record that information in the blue adjusting item. This is kind of like posting. This is going to be a shorthand posting. In that, we first have our trial balance on the left-hand side. We're going to post our adjustments in the blue area, and that'll give us a quick recap of what is happening here and what will be the result in the ending trial balance. The ending trial balance being the beginning numbers plus the adjustments. So in essence, the trial balance is going to be in order in terms of assets on top, then liabilities, and then kind of the equity section. Then the revenue and expenses, as well as estimated revenues and expenditures, which we'll see as we go through the problem. We're recording the debits and credits in the same column to save time, and hopefully we'll see that that is useful. And in so doing, what we're saying here is we have a 0 at the bottom. That means that the debits represented by positive numbers minus the credits represented by negative numbers sums up to be 0, and therefore we are in balance. So 0 means we're in balance. We're going to record those transactions here, and then the ending result should remain in balance as well. Let's go over to our first transaction and see what is happening. I'm going to record this information G1, and we're going to say that we first have estimated revenues in the form of taxes for real property. Of course, we're going to be the government, so we're collecting the taxes. We've got the interest and penalties on taxes, license and permits, fines, forfeitures, intergovernmental revenue, and charges for services. We then have the appropriations. Appropriations being authorizations granted by a legislative body to incur liabilities for purposes specified in the Appropriations Act. We're going to break those appropriations out into the categories of the general governmental, public safety, public works, and culture and recreations. For the purpose of the general fund, at this point in time, we're just going to group these into one account for estimated revenue, recording the estimated revenue, and recording the lump sum of the appropriations. Now, the estimated revenue is a bit confusing when we're going from financial account or normal accounting for a for-profit organization to a governmental entity, us not having to post the revenue, the estimated revenue generally most of the time. For a for-profit entity, we will be recording in the general fund the estimated revenue. If we scroll down to the trial balance, and I always recommend having a trial balance open as the cheat sheet, we can see that the estimated revenues down here on basically the income statement side or the temporary accounts side, accounts that will be closed out. And we know that revenue usually has a credit balance. Estimated revenue will have the opposite of the normal revenue account. Why? Because we're basically, it's convenient basically. We're going to have a revenue account with a credit balance. We're going to have the estimated revenue have a debit normal balance. Therefore, if we match the two up, we can kind of get a quick idea of the difference between the revenue and the estimated revenue. Therefore, we're going to debit estimated revenue. I'm going to copy that in cell C23, copy, scroll up to B5, right click, and paste it 1, 2, 3. The amount will then be from this item here. It's going to be 1,283,628. Then we're going to credit the appropriations. So again, the appropriations down here, we have the appropriations account, and in this case, the appropriations will be a credit balance account. So we're going to credit the appropriations now, and so I'm going to copy that. Let's scroll back down. Right click, copy on P25, copy. Scroll back up. This will be in G6 underneath the estimated revenue. Right click, paste it 1, 2, 3. The amount will be this amount here in the appropriations. So I'm going to say in I6, I'm going to make it a negative to make it a credit. And the amount will then be 1287640. Then we're going to have the difference. This number minus this number. If we highlight the two and we have a positive and a negative in Excel, which is a debit and a credit for our purposes, we say that we have the credits winning of 4,012. So that means that we need a debit in order to make this be in balance. I'm going to use our plug formula. I call this the plug formula. Instead of selecting equals, I'm going to put negative SUM, and then I'm going to sum up these cells as we would if we were summing. The negative then flipping the sign so that we have a positive 4012. That's the difference between these two numbers flipped, so it's a positive instead of a negative. And then if I highlight all of them, we are now in balance, meaning by the fact, showing by the fact that we have a 0 here if we sum them all up. Where's this difference going to go? We're gonna put that to the budgetary fund balance. So we got the budgetary fund balance right here. Copy that, and I'm going to put that in G7. Right click, paste it 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to post this journal entry to the blue column here and see the difference from the beginning trial balance to the ending trial balance. So we're going to scroll down to estimated revenue. Estimated revenue is right here. So I'm in R23 equals, we're going to point to that 1,283,628, enter. And there we have the debit there. So remember, we have a debit balance in the estimated revenue rather than a credit in normal revenue. And then we're going to have the appropriations in R25 equals, and we're going to point to I6, enter. We got that there, and remember that appropriations, we have a credit normal balance here. And then we've got the difference going to the budgetary fund balance in R23 equals, and we'll point to that 4012 and enter. That should put us back in balance. So here's where we started. Here's what has happened. We are now back in balance. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the first one and say that one is done. So just to track these as we go, I'm going to say that one's done. Make it green. We're on the one underneath it now, the one that's not green. And G2 is the next one that we are on. So we have property taxes levied. So remember that we are the state, we levy property taxes, so it's a good thing for us. We say people owe us money and we expect to be paid, and therefore we basically have a form of revenue and we have a receivable. And it's similar to us if we were issuing an invoice, kind of a similar transaction for a service company when we enter the invoice. Usually it's because we do work and we enter the invoice. Here we're saying we are going to collect taxes at this point, and we have mandated that to happen, and therefore we are going to debit the accounts receivable and credit some form of revenue. All right, so we have the accounts receivable up top. Here it is. It's right under cash. It's our second favorite account, and it has a debit balance because it's an asset, and we need to make it go up. People owe us more money, therefore we're going to do the same thing to it, which in this case will be another debit. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to put that on top in G9, right click and paste 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to record at this point in time the fact that there's going to be some folks that aren't going to pay us. So we're going to record at the point in time that we record the revenue, a bit different than normal GAAP, generally accepted accounting, for-profit accounting. And we're going to record that allowance at this point, at the point of the transaction, that being 1.2% of the property tax we believe will not be collectible. Therefore, we're going to record the allowance right underneath it at this point. This is going to be a contra account, just like it is for a for-profit organization, meaning it's an asset with a credit balance. We need to make it go up, so we're going to credit it. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to put that underneath. So what we're going to say is the assets are going to go up by the amount that we levied to get paid, which is this $692,400, that right there. And we're saying we're not going to get, we believe, an estimate of 1.2%, so 692,400 times 0.012 would be that. Rounded, I'm going to say that, do that with a formula. So I'm going to say, instead of equals, I'm going to say negative to make it a negative of, well, let's just type it in there, 692,400, and I'm going to say times this number. And there we have it, 8309. And then we need a credit. The credit's going to be the difference between these two. That's what we believe we will receive. And so if I highlight those two, this number minus this number, Excel gives us 684.91. I'm going to use our negative sum function to enter this. Negative sum of these cells, enter, means we have a difference there. If I highlight all of them, then we are now in balance, debits equaling the credits. That number then will be the revenue. So actual revenue, of course, being a credit, just like it would be for financial accounting, as opposed to estimated revenue. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to put that underneath in G11, right click, paste, 1, 2, 3. Let's post this out now and see if it does what we think it should. We're going to say receivables in R5 equals and point to the receivable 692,400, bringing that receivable up to 692,400. We will then record the related allowance for doubtful accounts, which is a contra asset, an asset with a credit balance. There we have it. So we're saying this is what people owe us. This is what we believe we're not going to get based on an estimate. And we have a net of 684.91. We need to record the revenue now, then being the 684.91 in R24. So I'm going to say that equals this credit, and that's going to make this go up in the credit direction. Notice the slight difference between the GAAP for-profit accounting, where we would basically have this allowance recorded with a credit to the allowance and a debit to something called bad debt expense. We don't have a bad debt expense here because we recorded this as we recorded the revenue. We recorded revenue net of the allowance rather than recording total revenue and then recording the bad debt, which is basically part of the revenue that we believe would not be collectible. So that's the slight difference we have between the for-profit and the governmental. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this green, saying we have completed that one. G3 then says we have encumbrances for purchase orders, 4 of these categories being the general government, public safety, public works, and cultural and recreation. The encumbrances being accounts used to record the estimated amount of purchase order contracts, salaries chargeable to the appropriations. So we're going to record these encumbrances in terms of the general fund just as a lump sum into encumbrances. So we're going to say G3 and we will record encumbrances. So I'm going to scroll over here. Encumbrances is right here. This will be a debit balance account. So we're going to debit the encumbrances, increasing the encumbrances. Going to right click, copy that, put it in G13, right click, paste 1, 2, 3. The amount will be this amount right there. So that's 243,326. We're going to credit the same amount. So I'm just going to say negative of that number, same amount with a credit. And that will go to encumbrances outstanding. So we're just going to basically record both halves of it here. One being down here, kind of in the income statement section, the temporary account section, and then the encumbrances outstanding related to it. Right-clicking encumbrances outstanding, putting it in G14, right-click, pasting 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to post this out. So I'm going to go down here to R27 equals, point to H13, and enter, recording the encumbrances. Then the other side in R22 equals, pointing to I14, and enter, back in balance here, moving on to the next item. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this, say we have completed that. We're going to be doing the next item that is not green underneath the items that are green. And we have cash received during the year. So we're going to record the cash receipts. Why did we get cash? We had current property taxes. We had delinquent property taxes. We had interest and penalties receivable on taxes. And then we got money that was due from the state. Then we had revenues. The revenues being, and again, we're the state, so these are money coming to us, revenues of license and permits, fines, forfeitures, intergovernmental charges, and charges for services. Therefore, the total is going to be the sum of these plus this item here. That's how much money that we got. So if we add these up, I'll add them up again this way. We've got 624,614 plus 94000 plus 13708 plus 66000 plus 561518. That gives us this 1,359,840. And we can record that cash as how much we're going to get in total. Cash, as always, has a debit balance. It's going to go up. Cash is going into the organization or the government organization here. So I'm going to copy that, put it on top. We're going to debit, do the same thing to it. I'm going to do this with a formula, so I'm going to say this equals the sum of these items here plus, or bracket, close that out, plus this total there, and that should give us that same 1,359,840 we just saw. Then we're going to break out the credits here, and we had the we had the current property taxes, the delinquent property taxes, the interest due from state government. If we go up top here, we're going to say property taxes would be the taxes receivable. So that receivable has been received now. This is a debit balance. We need to make it go down because it now has been received. Therefore, we're going to do the opposite thing to it, which in this case would be a credit. So I'm going to copy that, go down to G17, right click, paste 1, 2, 3, and that amount will then be this 624, 614. I'm going to make it a negative 624, 614. There we have that. And then we have the delinquent property taxes. So that's going to be taxes receivable delinquent. So these were past due. We have received them. Still an asset. Still represents money that we got. Therefore, this asset needs to go down because that's what's receivable. How do we make it go down? We do the opposite thing to it, which will also be a credit. So we're going to credit here. And the delinquent items would be credit 94000. That is this number there. Next item, we had interest and penalties. So I'm going to scroll back up. We're looking for interest and penalties. That's this item. Again, that's a receivable. We need to make it go down because we received some cash for it. Therefore, we're going to do the opposite thing to it. I'm going to copy that, go down to G19, right click, paste 1, 2, 3. Amount will be, scrolling back, this 13708, negative 13708. And there is that item. Then we have due from state government here, the 66. And that's going to be directly to the due from state government. So the state government owes us 165. Again, an asset. We need to make it go down. We're going to do the opposite thing to it, which in this case is a credit. So I'm going to copy that, paste it in G20, right click, paste 1, 2, 3. Credit will be for this, there it is, it's the 66,000, so credit 66,000. All right, and then we're gonna group all these together, the license in the general fund. So in this general fund journal entry, we're gonna group all the revenues together. So we're gonna record this total here, and we're gonna call that revenue. So we have the revenue. Revenue, as normal, is a credit balance account, and therefore we're gonna credit it. It always goes up, generally always goes up, and therefore we're gonna credit it for this total there. So that's a credit of 561,518. All right, so that should put us in balance. Let's check it. If I highlight these, we're at 1,359,840, which equals the debits. If we highlight all of them, it should equal out to 0. We will now post this journal entry out from here to the center column here, starting with cash. So cash is, of course, our first account. Cash has a debit balance. We are going to make it go up with this debit. So this debit is going to be recorded here in R5. We're going to say this equals and point to this 1,359,840, making the cash account go up. We're then going to record the taxes receivable. There's taxes receivable here. Here it is on the trial balance. We're going to record it in R6. Something's in it. Therefore, we're going to double click on it. Go to the end of the number plus, and we're going to point to this 624, 614. This is a debit representing what is owed to us. This is what has been paid to us and is a credit, therefore making this account go down. So it goes down. Then we're going to record this item, the delinquent receivables that were delinquent. Here it is on our journal entry. Here it is on our trial balance. We're going to record it here in R8. So R8 equals, and we're going to point to this 94,000 there. This is a credit. This is a debit. This represents what is owed to us. That represents what's paid to us. They are opposite. Therefore, this account goes down. Then we're going to record the interest and penalties receivable. So here it is on the journal entry. Here it is on the trial balance. We will record R10. So R10 equals, we're going to point to this 13,708. This is a debit. That's a credit. Those are opposites. The 40,110 will go down to 26,402. Then we have the due, due from state government. So here it is on the journal entry, here it is on the trial balance, and this is what is owed to us. In R12, we're going to say that that equals, point to this 66,000 credit. This is a debit, that's a credit. Those are opposites, making this account go down. Then we have the revenues. So revenues is going to be down here. This is our last account we're going to record. Revenues is down here. And revenue is a credit balance account. It generally only goes up. So we're going to increase revenue with a credit. So I'm going to there's something in it as well. So I'm going to double click on it, go to the end of it, plus, and point to this 561, 518 in I-21. And when we select enter, this amount should go up. And that should put us back in balance as well. So we're back to the zeros here. It has brackets around it because there could be a rounding issue here, meaning it's off by some pennies, but that's okay for our purposes at this time. Now let's scroll back to our data. I'm going to say highlight. We're going to highlight this information and say that that has now been entered. I'm going to make it green and go on to G5, where we have general fund payroll for the year. And I think this should be fun. Let's go ahead and put that. Okay, so we have the general government, we've got the public safety, the public works, the cultural and recreations. Again, we're going to basically group that in the general fund. We're going to group that together as the total. What we're doing here is similar to basically recording payroll. We're recording the payroll, and we're doing it for the government agency. So we're going to group this together in the expenditures. We're going to put these items, group them together for the purposes of the general fund in the expenditures. And then we're going to have the similar thing we see in for-profit accounting, meaning we're going to have to withhold for federal and possibly state, depending on the state, for withholdings for the payroll that we pay out. So we're going to record the expense here. We're going to record it as an expenditure for the general fund. So we're going to scroll up. We have the expenditures here. It's going to be down in kind of like the income statement section of our trial balance, the section that has temporary accounts in it for the most, at any rate. And we have the expenditures, which generally have debit balances, and we are going to make them go up as they generally do with another debit. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to put that in G23, right click, paste 1, 2, 3. This is going to be G5, and the amount is this amount here, this 1055288. There it is. So that's going to be the expenditure related to like a payroll expense that we would record in a for-profit organization. Now we're going to record the withholdings, the amount that we took out of the checks for both the federal withholdings and the state withholdings in a similar fashion as we would for a for-profit organization. So we're just going to call that, for this problem, that we have due to the federal government, due to the state government. Again, why is it due to the federal government and the state government? Because of withholding. So payroll taxes, meaning we had to withhold the payroll taxes in terms of federal income tax and possibly Social Security, Medicare, depending on the organization, or the government organization and their responsibilities for those, and the state taxes, which could also be state income taxes of the employees, not the employer, and we have similar obligations depending on the state that we are in. So these are going to be liabilities here because we're going to collect them and then we're going to owe them out to the federal and state governments. All right, so their liabilities, they're going to go up because we're going to owe them. Therefore, they're going to be credit balances. So I'm going to copy both of them and put them here. Right click, pasting 1, 2, 3. The amounts will be, and I'm going to put a credit with them. It's going to be a negative. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. It's going to be this 296142. So 296142. There's that item. And then we're going to say credit in the state. So the state due is going to be these two together. So that's going to be 39573. You can see it up here, minus the 77818. And that formula might look a little tricky to you because I put two negative numbers to make it a negative. So there's a couple different ways you can think about that. That's going to be the 39573 plus 77818, and then I made it a negative. So that's going to be the formula. It's the 117391, and it's a credit, therefore a negative. Then we're going to pay the cash, which will be the difference. Cash will be the difference, and I'm going to do a plug formula. We can say this minus this, if I highlight them all, means that cash went out of 641,755. I'm going to use the negative sum, the plug formula, negative sum of the cells, and enter. And if we highlight the credits, it comes out to equal the debits here. If we highlight all of them, it adds up to 0. And again, just the payroll can be confusing just in a for-profit organization. So what we have here is this is what the was earned for the employees. This is what we took out of their payroll in order to pay their payroll taxes, which we haven't yet done, but which we will owe in the future to the federal and state governments. Therefore, this is the net check that was actually received, the money received by the employees. So let's record this out then. We're going to record out the expenditures. Here it is in the journal entry. Here it is in our trial balance. We're going to be in R25 equals, oh, wrong cell. Delete or undo that. Let's click off it and undo. All right, we want to be in R26 equals, and we're pointing to that 1,055,288, which will bring the expenditures up. There we have that. Then we're going to record this due to federal government. That's going to be a liability due to federal government. So that's in R14 equals, and we're pointing to this 296,142, bringing that credit balance up. Then we are in R15 because we're going to record due to state government. That's here, that's here. We're in R15 equals, pointing to this 117,391, bringing this balance up. Then we're going to record the cash, which is of course our top account, in R5. Something's in it. Therefore, we double click on it, go to the end, plus, scroll down. We want this cash number there, 641,755. That's a credit. This is a debit. That will bring this number down. That should put us back in balance here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this and say that we are now on the next item, G6. So I'm going to say that's green, and we are now on G6.